The dealer was leaning against the new model when he saw it. Sitting there in the lot corner, Davis's old square baler, the 1980s IH model with the faded red paint. "You still running that thing?" The dealer laughed. Not mean, just surprised. Davis nodded. "Man, you're losing money every pass. These new round balers run 3 times the speed, pack tighter, store better. You're burning daylight with that antique." Other farmers nodded. They'd all upgraded. High-capacity models, computer monitors, automatic knotters, the kind of iron that could clear 100 acres before Davis finished 20. Davis didn't argue. He just hooked up the old baler and drove off. Behind him, someone said, "He'll figure it out when nobody wants square bales anymore." More laughter. The baler kept running. That was May. By June, everyone in the valley had upgraded except Davis. The Hendersons bought a big Vermeer. The Carsons leased a John Deere with GPS guidance. The Mitchells went in on a massive New Holland that could run day and night with LED lighting. They were all chasing the same thing: efficiency, speed, volume. The market rewarded it too. Big dairies wanted large round bales. Feed lots wanted consistency. Everyone wanted delivery yesterday. Davis kept making square bales, 50 pounds each, stackable, old-fashioned. At the co-op, 2 guys stood by the parts counter talking. Davis is still running that old IH baler. Thing's gotta be 40 years old? Probably can't afford a new one. Won't matter. Nobody's buying squares anymore. He's farming backwards. Davis paid for his twine and left. The baler sat in his shed. Greased, serviced, ready. It wasn't fast, but it had never stopped running since 1982. July came hot and dry. The first cutting went smooth for everyone. The big round balers ran hard. The Hendersons cleared their fields in 2 days. The Carsons did 300 acres in a week. The Mitchells were hiring out to neighbors, charging premium rates for high-speed baling. Davis took 3 weeks to finish his 160 acres. Square bales, stacked on the wagon, hauled to the barn, manual labor, slow process. The big operators were already working on contracts for second cutting. Davis was still stacking first cutting in his loft. People noticed. Of course they noticed. He's gonna lose the whole second cutting if he doesn't speed up. Should have upgraded 10 years ago. Pride's expensive. Davis didn't respond to any of it. He knew what he had: a baler that worked, twine that knotted, bales that held together. Not fast, but functional. Then the weather changed. First it was forecasts, rain coming, big system, the kind that could sit for a week. Everyone scrambled. Second cutting needed to happen fast. Get it down, get it baled, get it covered before the storms hit. The big round balers roared into action. The Hendersons worked through the night, their Vermeer running LED lights, making pass after pass. The Carsons had 2 crews going. The Mitchells were booked solid, charging overtime rates for emergency baling. Speed was everything. The rain was coming. Then the Hendersons' baler went down. Hydraulic failure. Something in the pickup system. They called the dealer. Parts were 2 days out, maybe 3. The Carsons kept running until their John Deere threw a sensor error. The computer locked the whole system down. Dealer said it needed a diagnostic. Technician was scheduled for Thursday. This was Monday. The Mitchells' New Holland kept working. Right up until the belt shredder jammed. A rock. A chunk of something. The whole mechanism seized. That baler wasn't going anywhere without a full teardown. Suddenly, the valley had 300 acres of cut hay drying in the field, and no balers running. The rain was still coming. Davis's phone rang Tuesday morning. It was Henderson. "You still baling?" "Yeah. Can you run some of my fields? I'll pay your rate plus 50%. I've got hay down, and my baler's waiting on parts. I can start tomorrow. Tomorrow, I need it today, the weather. I'm finishing my own fields today. I can start yours tomorrow." Silence on the line. Then, "Okay, tomorrow." Davis hung up, went back to his fields. The old IH baler knotting bales at exactly the same speed it always had. Not fast, but running. Wednesday, the Carsons called. "We heard you're baling for Henderson. Can you fit us in?" "After Henderson." "How long is that?" 4 days, maybe 5. 5 days? We need it done by Friday, before the rain. "I can't go faster than the baler goes." "What are you charging?" "Same rate I always charge. We'll double it. Just move us up." Davis thought about it. "I'll do Henderson first, then you. That's the order." The Carsons weren't happy, but they agreed, because the alternative was watching their hay rot in the field. The weather held, barely. Clouds building, wind shifting, everyone watching the radar. Davis worked Henderson's fields, the old baler chugging along, slower than the big machines, way slower. But it didn't stop, didn't throw errors, didn't need diagnostics. It just kept tying bales. Henderson watched from his truck, watching his hay get baled by a machine he'd laughed at 6 weeks ago. "How old is that thing?" he asked when Davis stopped for water. 42 years. "It runs like that every day?" "Every day I use it." Henderson nodded. Didn't say what he was thinking, but Davis could see it in his face. Speed only matters when the machine doesn't stop. By Friday, Davis had finished Henderson's fields and started on Carson's. The weather was changing, humidity rising. The hay was getting harder to bale, moisture content climbing. The big balers were still down, parts delayed, technicians behind schedule, one repair waiting on another. The Mitchells called. "Can you bale for us? Our New Holland's going to be down another week. We'll pay whatever you want." "I'm running Carson's fields now. Then I've got Miller lined up. After that, I can look at yours." "That's 2 weeks out. The hay won't keep that long." "I know." "So what do we do?" "I don't know. I'm booked." The line went quiet. Then Mitchell said something Davis had never heard from him before. "Please, we're desperate here." Davis didn't enjoy it, didn't celebrate, just said, "I'll see what I can do, but I'm not promising anything." The rain came Sunday night. Not as bad as forecast. Enough to slow things down. Enough to make the remaining cut hay risky. Davis kept working Monday, Tuesday, the old baler running through damp conditions that would have shut down the computerized machines. No sensors to complain, no systems to lock up, just mechanical timing and twine knots. By Wednesday, he'd finished Carson's fields and started on Miller's. Then the hay market changed. A drought out west had wiped out the big hay-producing regions. Supply was dropping. Demand was spiking. Prices started climbing. 20%, 30%, then 50%. Suddenly, every bale mattered. Every ton was profit. The farmers who'd lost hay to weather or baler breakdowns were watching money literally rot in the field. The ones who'd gotten their hay baled were watching the price climb higher every day. And the only baler running consistently in the valley was Davis's old IH. The calls kept coming. "Can you bale our third cutting? Are you available in August? What's your rate for the season?" Davis kept working. Same pace, same machine. The baler didn't care about hay prices or market conditions. It just kept tying bales at exactly the speed it was designed to tie them. But now those bales were worth real money. The Hendersons sold their first cutting for almost double what they'd budgeted. The Carsons covered their whole season's costs with what Davis had baled before the rain. Miller made more profit on the hay Davis baled than on his entire corn crop. Meanwhile, the farmers who'd waited for their big balers to get fixed had lost hundreds of acres. The hay was down too long, weathered, moldy, worthless. The Mitchells lost almost everything. Their New Holland sat in the dealer's lot for 3 weeks waiting on parts. By the time it was running again, their fields were done. Total loss. They'd been the biggest operation in the valley, the fastest, the most modern. Now they were calling Davis, asking if they could hire his old baler by the hour. "August, third cutting. The price kept climbing. Western drought wasn't ending. Feedlots were scrambling. Dairies were paying premiums for any quality hay they could find. Davis's phone rang constantly. He hired 2 high school kids to help stack bales, ran the baler 10 hours a day, started turning down work because there weren't enough hours in the week. The old IH just kept running. Same timing, same knots, same steady rhythm it had maintained since 1982. People stopped laughing about the square bales. Big round bales were great for volume. But square bales stacked better, stored tighter, shipped easier. And with hay prices this high, transportation costs mattered. Davis's squares were suddenly premium product. The dealer who'd laughed about the old baler drove out to Davis's place one evening, stood looking at the machine. It was covered in dust and grease. The paint was faded. The stickers were peeling, but it was running. "You taking care of this thing yourself?" the dealer asked. "Yep. No computer systems to mess with, no sensors to fail." "Nope." The dealer nodded, quiet for a minute. Then, "I sold 14 balers this spring. 8 of them have been in the shop. Parts backlogs, warranty issues, software updates." Davis didn't say anything. "You could name your price for this machine right now. People are desperate for anything that runs." "Not selling." "Didn't think so." The dealer left. Davis went back to work. September. The market peaked. Hay was selling for prices nobody had seen in 20 years. The farmers who'd gotten their cutting baled were making money. The ones who'd lost hay to weather and breakdowns were hurting bad. The difference was simple: timing, reliability, being able to bale when it mattered. Speed hadn't mattered at all. Henderson stopped by Davis's place. Didn't need anything baled, just wanted to talk. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" "No. But you kept that old baler running anyway." "It was what I had, so I maintained it." "Everyone told you to upgrade." "I know. But you didn't." Davis looked at the balier sitting in his shed. Same machine it had always been. It still worked. Didn't make sense to replace something that worked. Henderson nodded, understanding something he should have understood earlier. "I bought that Vermeer for $70,000. I've put $12,000 into repairs. It's been down more than it's been running." "Modern equipment's complicated." "Your baler cost what? $5,000 new back in the 80s? $4,800. And it's made you how much this summer?" Davis didn't answer. He didn't need to. Henderson got the point. October brought the last cutting, smaller, but prices were still high. Davis worked steady through the month. The old baler logging hours that would have killed most machines. But it was built simple, built to last. No planned obsolescence, no engineered failure points, just steel and timing and mechanical precision. The Mitchells sold their New Holland in November. Took a huge loss. Their farm was hurting. The hay they'd lost had cost them more than just one season's profit. Carson's John Deere was running again, but the repair bills had eaten most of his margin. He'd made money on the hay Davis baled, lost money on everything else. The valley had learned something expensive. Fast machines are great until they stop, and when they stop, speed doesn't matter anymore. Meanwhile, Davis's old IH sat in the shed, greased, serviced, ready for next season. It hadn't gotten faster, hadn't gotten smarter, hadn't changed at all, but it had worked every single day someone needed it. Winter came. Davis sat at his kitchen table running numbers. Income from hay sales, $42,000. Income from custom baling, $68,000. Total, $110,000. Best year he'd ever had, and the baler was still running. The dealer called in January, had a customer looking for a reliable square baler. Would Davis consider selling? No. Customers offering $15,000 for a 40-year-old baler. Still no. You could buy 2 new ones for what this market's paying for used equipment that actually runs. Don't need two. This one works. The dealer laughed. Different laugh than before. You're the only guy I know who won in all this. Didn't win anything. Just kept working. Spring 1984. The valley looked different now. Half the big operators were farming smaller. Equipment was for sale everywhere. The guys who'd over-leveraged on fast machines were trying to get out before the debt broke them. Davis didn't gloat, didn't lecture, just started baling when the hay was ready. The old IH fired up first pull. Same sound it had made since 1982. Higher pitched than modern machines. Simpler, mechanical, but reliable. Henderson drove past Davis's field one day, slowed down, watched the baler working. The same steady pace, the same consistent rhythm. Not fast, just unstoppable. He understood now what he should have understood before. Speed only matters when you can maintain it. Reliability matters all the time. Davis kept baling. The machine kept running. And the people who'd laughed had learned something they'd never forget. Third cutting that summer. Davis was booked solid again. The hay market had stabilized, but prices were still strong. Western drought had ended, but supply was still tight. Quality hay still commanded premium prices. The old baler worked through July, through August, into September, logging hours that modern machines would have considered impossible. But it didn't know impossible. It just knew mechanical timing and twine knots. Carson stopped by one evening, watched Davis working. "You ever think about upgrading?" he asked. Davis shook his head. "Why not?" "What would I upgrade to?" Carson didn't have an answer. His John Deere was running now, when it ran. But it had been in the shop twice already this season. More downtime, more dealer visits, more diagnostic fees. The old IH just kept running. "I spent $80,000 on that Deere," Carson said quietly. "Could have bought your whole operation for less." "Probably. And yours makes more bales. Different machines, different approaches. But yours works." Davis nodded. That was the difference. Not speed, not capacity, not features. Just that simple fact. It worked. Every time, without exception. Carson left. Davis went back to baling. The dealer came by again in November, sat on Davis's tailgate watching the baler run. "You know what I've learned this year?" the dealer said. Davis waited. "I've learned that I'm selling the wrong equipment." "How's that?" "These new machines, they're incredible when they work, but they're so complicated. So many failure points, computer systems that crash, sensors that fail, parts that aren't made to be repaired. Everything's designed to last just past warranty and then force an upgrade. That's the business model." "I know, but watching your baler run all season, watching you make more money than guys running equipment that cost 10 times what yours did, it makes me wonder if we're doing this backwards." Davis didn't answer. He didn't need to validate the dealer's realization. The old IH just kept running, same as it always had. "How much longer you think it'll last?" the dealer asked. "Long as I maintain it." "That could be another 40 years. "Could be." The dealer shook his head. "Nobody builds equipment like that anymore." "I know." Winter settled in. Davis serviced the baler. Every bearing, every chain, every moving part. Replaced what needed replacing. Greased what needed grease. The work took 3 days. When he was done, the baler sat in the shed ready for next season. Same machine, same reliability, same simple mechanical certainty. His neighbors were already talking about next year's equipment purchases. New models coming out, new features, new financing deals. Davis wasn't interested. He had everything he needed. A baler that worked, a schedule that paid, a reputation for showing up and getting it done. The phone started ringing again in March. Farmers wanting to book baling time for the coming season. Davis wrote down names, scheduled dates, set his rate. Same rate as before, because the market had taught everyone something valuable. Speed's only worth paying for if the machine doesn't stop. Otherwise, reliability sets the price, and Davis's baler never stopped. Spring came again. The valley was quieter now. The big operators had learned. The fast and loose approach had cost too many people too much money. Equipment was being maintained better. Schedules were more realistic. Everyone was farming a little more carefully. But Davis farmed the same way he'd always farmed. Steady, consistent, with a machine that worked. The old IH baler sat in the shed, 43 years old now. The paint was faded almost white in places. The decals were completely gone. The seat was patched with duct tape. But when Davis started it up, it ran smooth. Same timing, same knots, same mechanical rhythm that had never changed. He drove it to the field, hooked up the first load, started making passes. Behind him, the bales dropped in perfect rows, 50 pounds each. Stackable, reliable, old-fashioned, not fast, just functional. And in farming, functional beats fast every single time complexity fails. If you still believe reliability beats speed, if you've learned what happens when modern systems fail and simple machines just keep working, then maybe you understand what the Valley learned the hard way. Speed's a luxury, reliability's a necessity, and sometimes the slowest machine in the field is the only one still moving when it matters most. Davis's baler kept running. The fields kept getting baled. And the people who'd laughed had learned to stop counting speed and start counting bales that actually got made. Because in the end, the only metric that mattered was simple. Did it work when you needed it? The old IH answered that question every single day. It just kept running.